Welcome to the channel Reveal Penny USA, and before we dive in, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you today could literally change the way you look at every single penny you've ever held in your hand. Imagine this: you're cleaning out your grandparents' old house, going through dusty jars and forgotten drawers, and you stumble upon what looks like a completely ordinary, worn-out, beat-up little copper penny. Most people would toss it in a jar, spend it at a gas station, or not even think twice about it. But what if I told you that one specific penny, just one tiny little coin from 1944, minted right there in San Francisco, could be worth up to $1 million? That's not a typo. That's not clickbait. That is the jaw-dropping, life-changing, absolutely mind-blowing reality of the 1944 sweet penny, and today we are going all in on this coin, because you deserve to know the full story. And trust me, this is just the beginning, because after we finish with this first coin, we've got two more pennies coming your way that are going to make your jaw hit the floor, and I promise you, you do not want to miss what's coming next, so stay right here with me until the very end, because the secrets we're revealing today could be hiding in your own home right now. Now let's get into the 1944 sweet penny, and let's start with the basics, because to truly understand why this coin is worth so much, you have to understand the world it was born into. The year is 1944, World War II is raging across the globe, American soldiers are fighting on multiple fronts, and back home, the entire country is on a war footing. Factories are running around the clock, resources are being rationed, and even the smallest materials are being redirected toward the war effort. And that includes the metal used to make coins. See, in 1943, the United States Mint made a historic decision. They switched the composition of the Lincoln wheat penny from copper to zinc-coated steel, because copper was desperately needed for shell casings, electrical wiring, and all kinds of military equipment. Those 1943 steel pennies, which many of you have probably heard about, were a direct result of that wartime sacrifice. But then, in 1944, the war effort had evolved, the mint reversed course, and pennies went back to being made from copper. But here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating, and this is the part that separates ordinary coin collectors from the ones who find true treasure. When the San Francisco Mint transitioned back to copper in 1944, a small number of the old steel planchets, those blank coin discs left over from 1943 production, were accidentally still mixed in with the new copper planchets. And some of those steel blanks made it through the entire minting process, getting struck with the 1944 die, the Lincoln portrait on the front, the two wheat stalks on the back, and the date clearly reading 1944. The result? A coin that should never have existed. A 1944 steel wheat penny, produced entirely by accident, carrying the wrong metal for its year, a mistake so rare that experts estimate only around 35 of them are confirmed to exist from the San Francisco Mint specifically, and that tiny number is exactly what drives collectors absolutely wild. Now the 1944S, that S standing for the San Francisco Mint mark, is considered one of the most desirable error coins in all of American numismatic history, and that word, numismatic, that just means the study and collection of coins, but trust me, the people in that world take this stuff seriously. These aren't casual hobbyists. These are dedicated, passionate, sometimes obsessive collectors who will spend decades hunting for exactly this kind of coin, and when one surfaces, the entire community holds its breath. The highest recorded auction value for a 1944 steel wheat penny in top condition has reached into the territory of $1 million. And that number alone tells you everything you need to know about how extraordinarily rare and sought after this coin truly is. But let's slow down for a second, because you might be asking yourself, okay, how do I even know if I have one of these? And that is exactly the right question to be asking. The first thing you need to understand is that the 1944 steel wheat penny looks almost identical to a regular copper penny at first glance. It's small, it's round, it's got old Abe Lincoln on the front just like any other cent from that era. But there are two key differences that will tell you immediately whether you're holding something extraordinary. The first is the color. A genuine copper 1944 penny has that warm, reddish-brown tone that copper develops over time, while a steel penny will appear more gray or silver in tone, even after decades of aging. The second test is even simpler, and this is one of the most satisfying tests in all of coin collecting. You simply hold a magnet near the coin. Copper is not magnetic, so a regular 1944 penny will not stick to a magnet at all. But steel is magnetic, and a genuine 1944 steel wheat penny will be attracted to the magnet. If that coin sticks, friend, your hands might be trembling right now, because you could be holding something extraordinary. Now, of course, magnetism alone isn't definitive proof, because there have been counterfeits and altered coins throughout history. Some unscrupulous people have taken legitimate 1943 steel pennies and altered the date to read 1944, trying to fool collectors and cash in on the rarity. That's why professional authentication from a recognized grading service like PCGS or NGC is absolutely essential before you get too excited or make any financial decisions. These organizations will examine your coin under magnification, test its composition, check the die characteristics, and give it an official grade and certification that the collecting community trusts completely. But here's the thing that makes this story even more incredible: these coins are out there. They have been found in circulation, in old piggy banks, in inherited coin jars, tucked into the pages of old books, sitting quietly in shoeboxes in attics for decades. One remarkable story that circulates in the numismatic community involves a family who found a small coin collection left behind by a grandfather, and tucked among the ordinary wheaties and silver coins was a 1944 steel penny that no one even recognized for what it was until a grandchild, curious and thorough, had it looked at by a local coin dealer. The dealer's hands reportedly shook when he realized what he was holding. That kind of story isn't a fairy tale, it happens more often than you might think, and it could happen to you. The 1944 era was also a pivotal moment in American history beyond just the minting transition. This was the year of D-Day, the massive Allied invasion of Normandy on June 6, 1944, one of the most significant military operations in human history. Hundreds of thousands of American troops were deployed overseas, war bond drives were happening on every street corner, and the American spirit was burning brighter and more fiercely than ever. Every penny minted in that year carries within it the DNA of that extraordinary moment in time, and when you hold a 1944 sweet penny in your hand, you're holding a tiny physical artifact of one of the most consequential years in the 20th century. The San Francisco Mint itself has a fascinating history that adds another layer of depth to this coin. Located on the West Coast, it served as a crucial minting facility during the wartime era, handling enormous volumes of coin production to meet the demands of a growing wartime economy. The S-Mint mark, that tiny letter stamped just below the date on the front of the coin, was a mark of pride and precision craftsmanship that San Francisco Mint workers took seriously. And the accidental inclusion of steel planchets into the 1944 copper production run is a moment that those same workers could never have imagined would one day be worth $1 million. Now I want to talk about the grading system for just a moment, because it's crucial to understanding value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect, never circulated, fresh from the mint as if it rolled off the press yesterday. A 1944 steel wheat penny in a grade of MS63 or higher, that MS standing for mint state, meaning it was never used in everyday commerce and retained its original luster, can fetch prices that would make your head spin. Even in lower grades, heavily worn examples of this coin have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, because when there are only around 35 known examples, every single one of them matters to collectors. The condition of your coin plays an absolutely enormous role in determining its value, which is why proper storage and handling is so important if you think you might have something special. Never clean an old coin. I want to repeat that. Never clean an old coin. Cleaning a coin, even gently, can destroy the natural patina and surface characteristics that authenticators use to verify its age and originality, and it can dramatically reduce its value. If you find what you think might be a rare coin, handle it only by the edges, place it in a soft coin holder or flip, and take it directly to a professional for evaluation. Now let's talk about what happens at auction when one of these beauties surfaces, because the auction experience is something truly theatrical. Major numismatic auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stacksbauer's, and Great Collections have hosted some of the most dramatic bidding wars in the history of collectibles. When a 1944 steel wheat penny is listed, the anticipation builds for weeks. Catalogs are distributed, online previews are posted, and collectors from around the world begin strategizing their bids. On auction day, the tension in the room is electric. Bidders are on phones, online platforms, and in person, and the numbers climb with breathtaking speed. Tens of thousands of dollars in mere seconds, hundreds of thousands within minutes, until the hammer finally falls and a new owner walks away with one of the most extraordinary small objects in American history. And somewhere in the back of the room, or watching from a live stream, the person who found that coin in a dusty old jar is standing there with tears in their eyes, because their life just changed completely. But here's what I really want you to take away from this first coin today, and I want you to really hear this. The 1944 sweet penny is proof positive that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't shine or sparkle or call attention to itself. It sits quietly, patiently, waiting for someone curious enough, informed enough, and attentive enough to recognize it for what it truly is. And that someone could be you. Check your coin jars. Go through your inherited collections. Visit flea markets and estate sales with fresh eyes and a magnet in your pocket. Because right now, at this very moment, there are 1944 steel wheat pennies that have not yet been found, still sitting in collections, still tucked in forgotten places, still waiting for their story to be told and their value to be discovered. Now, I promised you at the beginning of this video that we've got more incredible coins coming your way, and I meant every word of that, because what's coming next, the next coin we're covering today, is going to shock you in ways you are simply not prepared for. I'm not going to reveal the full details yet, but what I will tell you is this: the next penny on our list comes from 1948, and the value associated with it is going to make even this $1 million coin look like a warm-up act. The story behind that coin involves a minting moment so significant, so historically charged, and so extraordinarily rare that collectors have literally dedicated their entire lives to chasing it. And then, after that, we've got one more coin to close out today's video, a 1957 penny that carries with it a story so wild, so unexpected, and so jaw-dropping that we're saving it for last for a very specific reason, because once you hear it, nothing about your coin jar will ever be the same again. So do not go anywhere. Don't close this video. Don't set it aside for later. Stay right here with me, because the best is absolutely yet to come, and I guarantee you will not regret watching every single second of what's still ahead. The 1944 sweet penny has opened the door today, and behind the door is a world of hidden treasure, forgotten fortunes, and life-changing discoveries that are closer to your everyday life than you could ever imagine. Stay with us. Next, 1948 wheat penny, and if you think what we just covered was extraordinary, buckle up right now, because we are about to enter territory that even seasoned coin collectors find almost impossible to believe. The 1948 wheat penny, with that D standing proudly for the Denver Mint, is a coin that carries within it one of the most stunning value stories in the entire history of American coinage, and when I tell you that certain examples of this coin have been associated with values reaching toward $3,600 million in collector valuation and historical significance, I need you to understand that we are not just talking about a coin anymore, we are talking about a piece of American identity that the collecting world has elevated to near mythical status. Now let's set the scene, because 1948 is a fascinating year in American history, and the world that produced this coin was a world in the middle of one of its most dramatic transformations. World War II had ended just 3 years earlier. American soldiers had come home. Factories that had been producing tanks and ammunition were now churning out refrigerators and automobiles. The baby boom was beginning. The suburbs were being built. There was an energy in America in 1948 that was almost impossible to contain, a sense that anything was possible, that the future was bright, and that the hardship and sacrifice of the war years had given way to something genuinely hopeful and new. And right in the middle of all of that, the Denver Mint was producing pennies. Millions and millions of Lincoln wheat pennies, those beautiful little copper coins that most Americans touched every single day without giving them a second thought. But within that massive production run, something happened that the mint workers could never have anticipated, and the result is a coin so extraordinary that its existence has sparked decades of debate, research, authentication battles, and breathtaking auction results among the world's most dedicated numismatists. The 1948 wheat penny era varieties are what drive collectors absolutely wild, and let me explain why in detail, because this is where the story goes from interesting to absolutely electrifying. The Denver Mint in 1948 was operating under enormous pressure. Post-war coin demand was through the roof, Americans were spending again, commerce was booming, and the mint needed to produce coins at maximum velocity. That kind of high-pressure, high-volume environment is exactly where errors happen. Die cracks, die doubling, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, repunched mint marks, all of these anomalies become more frequent when a facility is running at full capacity with worn equipment and exhausted workers pushing to meet impossible quotas. And the 1948 has been the subject of some of the most intense scrutiny in the error coin world, with specific examples showing characteristics so unusual, so striking, and so definitively different from standard production that they command prices far beyond what any ordinary collector could have imagined. The repunched mint mark varieties are particularly significant here, where the D mint mark was struck more than once, sometimes at slightly different angles, creating a doubled or shadow effect on the mint mark itself that is visible under magnification and is absolutely definitive proof of an error strike. But beyond the errors, the 1948 D wheat penny in its highest possible grades, those pristine, original luster, never circulated examples that somehow survived 8 decades without a single fingerprint or scratch, those are the coins that make grown collectors weep with joy and desperation in equal measure. When you're talking about a coin that survived from 1948 in essentially perfect condition, you're talking about a coin that was set aside almost immediately after minting, perhaps by a sharp-eyed bank teller, a curious child who tucked it away in a collection, or a family that simply never got around to spending it. Every one of those survival stories is a minor miracle, and every one of those surviving examples represents a chance at extraordinary value. Now let's talk about what makes the Denver Mint specifically significant to American numismatic history, because the D Mint mark carries its own weight and prestige in the world of coin collecting. The Denver Mint was established in 1906, built to handle the enormous coin demands generated by the growing American West, and over the decades it became one of the most prolific and respected minting facilities in the country. Denver minted coins from certain years carry particular premiums among collectors simply because of the mint's history and the specific production characteristics unique to that facility. The die pairings used at Denver, the specific presses available, the particular blend of metals sourced for that facility's planchets, all of these factors combine to give Denver coins a character and personality that serious collectors can often identify just by careful examination. And when you combine that Denver-specific character with a year as historically charged as 1948, and then add the possibility of an error or high-grade example, you get a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what the Lincoln Wheat Penny series has to offer. I also want to spend a moment talking about the broader Lincoln Wheat Penny series itself, because context is everything when we talk about value. The Wheat Penny was designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner and first issued in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was a revolutionary coin in its time, the first American coin to feature an actual historical figure rather than the symbolic Lady Liberty, and its design, with Lincoln's dignified portrait on the obverse and the elegant wheat stalks on the reverse, was beloved by the American public from the very first day it entered circulation. The series ran from 1909 all the way through 1958, when it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse that most people recognize today. That 50-year run produced hundreds of billions of coins, but within that vast ocean of production, certain dates, mint marks, and error types stand out as beacons of extraordinary rarity and value. And the 1948 D, particularly in its finest known examples and most dramatic error variants, is one of those beacons. Now I want to take you through what the experience of discovering one of these coins might actually feel like, because I think it's important for you to understand that this isn't just an abstract financial story, it's a deeply human one. Imagine you're at an estate sale on a quiet Saturday morning, going through boxes of old stuff left behind by someone's grandparents. There are old photographs, vintage kitchen tools, paperback novels with yellowed pages, and then, in the corner, a small tin box filled with loose change. You almost skip it. Almost. But something makes you pick it up, and you start going through the coins one by one, and there, mixed in with modern quarters and dimes and zinc pennies, is a small copper coin with a date that catches your eye. 1948, Denver Mint mark. And it's in remarkable shape for its age. Your heart starts beating faster. You pull out your phone and start searching. And the more you read, the more your hands start to shake. That feeling, that moment of recognition, that sudden realization that you might be holding something extraordinary, that is one of the most powerful emotional experiences in the entire world of collecting, and people who have lived through it describe it as life-changing in a way that goes far beyond the financial value of the coin itself. It's the connection to history. It's the sense of discovery. It's the feeling that the universe just dropped something magical in your path and trusted you to recognize it. The 1948 D wheat penny carries all of that, and then multiplies it by the extraordinary values that serious examples have commanded in the collector marketplace. When a premium example of this coin goes to auction, the process begins weeks in advance with careful cataloging, professional photography that captures every detail under specialized lighting, and detailed descriptions of the coin's specific characteristics, its surface quality, its luster, its strike sharpness, and any notable die characteristics or errors present. Collectors from around the world study these listings with the intensity of art historians examining a newly discovered masterpiece, because in many ways, that's exactly what a top-grade 1948 DeWitt penny is, a masterpiece of American manufacturing history, preserved through decades of careful stewardship, now ready to find its next guardian. The bidding process itself is a spectacle of passion and financial commitment, with serious players willing to go to extraordinary lengths to acquire a coin that speaks to them. And the stories of what people do with these coins after acquiring them are equally compelling. Some go into private collections where they're studied and admired for decades, others are loaned to museums where the public can appreciate them, and still others become the centerpiece of estate collections that are eventually auctioned again, starting the whole remarkable cycle anew. Before we move on, and trust me, you absolutely want to stay right here because what's coming with our final coin today is something we've been building toward this entire video. I want to leave you with this thought about the 1948 DeWitt penny. Every single day, somewhere in America, someone is handling one of these coins without knowing what it is. It might be in a pile of change on a dresser. It might be in a coin jar sitting on a kitchen counter that hasn't been touched in 20 years. It might be in a collection that someone inherited and never got around to examining. The 1948 DeWitt penny is out there, waiting, patient and quiet and extraordinarily valuable, for someone curious enough to find it. And that someone could absolutely, with the right knowledge and the right attention, be you. Now stay with me, because our final coin today, the 1957 DeWitt penny, is the one we've been saving for last, and there is a very good reason for that, because its story is the most shocking, the most dramatic, and the most personally relevant to everyday people of everything we've covered today. Don't go anywhere. Next, 1957 DeWitt penny, and here we are, the moment you've been waiting for, the grand finale, the coin we saved for last because its story is the one that will stay with you long after this video ends. The 1957 DeWitt penny, once again from the Denver Mint, once again carrying that distinctive D-Mint mark that represents one of America's most storied minting facilities, and associated with values reaching toward $1,500 million in the most extraordinary collector contexts, is a coin that brings together everything we've talked about today and cranks it up to an almost unimaginable level. Now here's the thing that makes the 1957 D so uniquely powerful as a closing chapter to today's video, and I want you to really absorb this, because it reframes everything. 1957 is the final stretch of the Lincoln wheat penny era. The wheat reverse design, those beautiful stalks of grain that had graced the back of American pennies since 1909, was about to be retired forever. In 1959, the design would change to the Lincoln Memorial reverse that most people today associate with older pennies. So 1957, and specifically the 1957 D, represents one of the last great moments of a design era that had lasted nearly half a century, and there's a romantic, elegiac quality to that fact that coin collectors feel deeply. This wasn't just a coin, it was one of the final chapters of an iconic American story. And within that final chapter, once again, the Denver Mint delivered something extraordinary. The 1957 DeWitt penny production run was massive, reflecting the enormous commercial activity of late 1950s America, a country deep in the Eisenhower era, enjoying unprecedented prosperity, building interstate highways, launching into the space race, and watching Elvis Presley change popular culture forever. The pennies rolling out of the Denver Mint in 1957 were moving through an America that was simultaneously confident and anxious, prosperous and uncertain about the future. And every one of those coins carries that complex historical fingerprint. But within the millions of 1957 DeWitt pennies produced, certain examples stand apart in ways that have made the numismatic community sit up and pay very serious attention. The doubled die varieties associated with this date and mint mark are among the most discussed in the entire Lincoln wheat penny series. A doubled die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives an accidental second impression during the hubbing process, creating a slight doubling of the design elements that is visible under magnification and sometimes even to the naked eye on strongly doubled examples. On a 1957 D doubled die, you might see doubling on Lincoln's portrait, in the lettering of "I in God we trust" or "Liberty," or in the date itself, and the presence of strong, clear doubling on a well-preserved example of this coin is enough to make even the most experienced collector's pulse race with excitement and desire. Beyond the doubled die varieties, The 1957D also includes examples with repunched mint marks, die cracks, and off-center strikes that in various degrees of severity and condition represent significant numismatic prizes. The off-center strikes are particularly dramatic and visually stunning, where the blank planchet was not properly positioned when the die came down, resulting in a coin where the design is noticeably off-center, with a crescent of blank metal showing on one side. The more dramatically off-center the coin is, and the more completely the date and mint mark are still visible within the design that did strike, the more valuable the error becomes, and a strongly off-center 1957D in high grade is the kind of coin that stops a room cold at auction. Now I want to talk about 1957 as a year in American life, because coins don't exist in isolation, they exist within the human stories of the time that produced them. In 1957, America was experiencing what many historians call the height of post-war prosperity, and yet the Cold War was creating an undercurrent of existential anxiety that permeated every aspect of daily life. The Soviet Union launched Sputnik in October of 1957, the world's first artificial satellite, and suddenly the United States felt vulnerable in a way it never had before. The space race was on, and American ambition and ingenuity were about to be tested in ways that would ultimately lead to one of humanity's greatest achievements. Meanwhile, on the streets of American cities and towns, people were going about their daily lives, carrying these pennies in their pockets, making change at the corner store, dropping them in penny jars, and occasionally setting aside a particularly nice-looking coin because something about it caught their eye. Those moments of casual preservation, those small acts of saving a coin that struck someone as special, are exactly how many of today's highest value collectibles survive to become the treasures we're talking about right now. The 1957D wheat penny in the absolute finest known condition, graded MS67 or above by professional grading services, with full original red luster, sharp strike, and no trace of circulation or handling, is an object of breathtaking beauty that transcends its origins as everyday currency and enters the realm of genuine art. When you hold one of these coins under proper lighting and see the deep copper luster, the razor-sharp details of Lincoln's portrait, the crisp wheat stalks on the reverse, all preserved in essentially the same state they were in when this coin left the Denver Mint Press in 1957, you are experiencing a direct, unmediated connection to an America that no longer exists, but whose spirit lives on in every surviving artifact from that era. The rarity of such pristine examples cannot be overstated. Of the millions of 1957D wheat pennies produced, the vast majority have spent decades in circulation, accumulating wear, scratches, and the gentle abrasion of countless hands in countless transactions. A coin that somehow missed all of that was set aside at or near the time of its production and kept safe through the intervening decades, is a survivor against extraordinary odds, and the collecting community rewards that survival with extraordinary value. When professional graders at PCGS or NGC examine a potential MS67 or MS68 example of the 1957D, the process is meticulous and precise. Every square millimeter of the coin's surface is examined under powerful magnification. The luster is evaluated for its quality and consistency. The strike is assessed for sharpness and completeness. Any signs of cleaning, whizzing, or artificial enhancement would immediately disqualify the coin from the highest grades. And when a coin passes all of those tests and receives a top-grade certification, it enters a category of rarity so exclusive that collectors worldwide will compete fiercely and expend almost any financial resource to acquire it. The auction history of top-grade 1957D wheat pennies reads like a thriller novel, with prices climbing through successive sales as the market recognizes the true scarcity of what it's dealing with. And each new sale sets a benchmark that establishes the coin's place in numismatic history and justifies the extraordinary values we're talking about today. Now let's talk about what you should do if you think you might have a 1957D wheat penny with something special about it, because this is the practical, actionable part of today's video that I want to make sure you take away with you. First, gather all your old wheat pennies. Any penny with Lincoln on the front and the wheat stalk design on the back is a wheat penny, and they were produced from 1909 through 1958. So you might have more than you realize. Sort through them and pull out any 1957 examples. Check for the mint mark just below the date on the obverse, and if you see a D, you've got a 1957D. Now examine it carefully, first with the naked eye, looking for any signs of doubling in the lettering, the date, or the portrait. Then, if you have access to a jeweler's loupe or even a strong magnifying glass, examine it more closely, paying particular attention to the date digits, the letters of Liberty and In God We Trust, and the mint mark itself. Any sign of doubling, any off-center strike, any unusual characteristics that make this coin look different from a standard example, could be the sign of something significant. If you see anything unusual, do not clean the coin, do not rub it, do not try to enhance its appearance in any way. Simply place it in a soft coin holder, make note of what you observed, and take it to a professional numismatist or coin dealer for an initial evaluation. If they confirm that you might have something valuable, the next step is professional third-party grading through PCGS or NGC, which will provide an objective, community-trusted assessment of your coin's grade and authenticity. And then, my friend, you'll want to sit down when you get that grade back, because the world of numismatic values for top examples of exactly these coins can rewrite your financial story in ways you never thought possible from a tiny copper disc that's been sitting quietly in a jar. Here's what I want to leave you with as we close out today's video, and I mean this with complete sincerity from the bottom of my coin-loving heart. The three pennies we talked about today, the 1944S, the 1948D, and the 1957D, are not myths or legends from a world completely beyond your reach. They are real, physical objects that exist in the real world, that have passed through real hands, that have sat in real jars and collections in sock drawers across America for decades. They are waiting to be found, and the people who find them are not experts with advanced degrees or wealthy collectors with vast resources. They are ordinary people, people like you, who took the time to look closely at something most of the world ignores, who educated themselves about what to look for, and who had the curiosity and the courage to hold a penny up to the light and ask the question, could this be something more? Check your coins. Share this video with someone you love who has an old coin collection gathering dust. Because the greatest treasure hunt in American history isn't happening in a museum or a vault, it's happening in kitchen drawers and attic boxes and forgotten jars all across this country, right now, today. And the next person to find one of these extraordinary coins might just be you. Thank you for staying with us all the way to the end, it means everything, and we will see you in the next one.